Here's something that'll blow your mind. In the year 800, the largest city in the world wasn't Rome, wasn't Constantinople, wasn't anywhere in Europe. It was Baghdad. Population, somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million people. And it wasn't just big, it was brilliant. The Abbasid Caliphate, ruling from Baghdad, presided over what's called the Islamic Golden Age. While Europe was in the Dark Ages, Baghdad had the House of Wisdom, a massive library and research institute where scholars translated Greek, Persian, and Indian texts into Arabic and made revolutionary discoveries. They invented algebra. Literally, the word algebra comes from Arabic. They pioneered advances in medicine, astronomy, chemistry, and engineering. They created hospitals, universities, and scientific methods. The Abbasid era gave us the number zero, algorithms, the concept of hospitals as we know them, and even the word chemistry. For about 500 years, from 750 to 1258, the Abbasid Caliphate was the most advanced civilization on earth. So how do you build an empire that prioritizes knowledge over conquest? What happens when you make your capital a center of learning instead of just military power? And what ultimately destroys a civilization that seemed invincible? I'm Jack. This is Blueprints of Power, and today we're exploring the empire that preserved ancient wisdom and created the foundations of modern science. Let's go. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Blueprints of Power. I'm Jack.
I'm Lily.
And I'm Charlie.
Today we're covering the Abbasid Caliphate, and this is one of those civilizations that fundamentally shaped the modern world but doesn't get taught enough.
Why not?
Because Western education tends to focus on European history and downplay Islamic contributions. But during the Abbasid period, from roughly 750 to 1258 AD, the Islamic world was far more advanced than Christian Europe in science, medicine, mathematics, and philosophy.
The Abbasid Caliphate controlled territory from North Africa to Central Asia, from Spain to the borders of India. At its peak, it had about 35 million people, roughly a third of the global population.
A third of all humans?
About that, yes. And Baghdad, their capital, was the largest, wealthiest, and most sophisticated city in the world during this period.
And what makes the Abbasids special is their emphasis on knowledge. Previous Islamic caliphates, the Umayyads before them, focused on military expansion. The Abbasids also expanded, but they really invested in scholarship, translation, and scientific advancement.
So they're like the Persians or the Dutch, building power through innovation, not just conquest.
Exactly. And they created what we call the Islamic Golden Age, roughly 800 to 1200 AD, when Islamic civilization made more scientific and cultural advances than any other civilization on Earth.
We're talking about major contributions. The number system we use today comes from this era. Advances in medicine that defined practice for centuries. Astronomical observations that corrected ancient Greek errors. Literary works that influenced world literature.
So this is a big deal.
Enormous deal. And the Abbasid Caliphate lasted over 500 years, though it weakened significantly after the 900s. But Baghdad remained a cultural and intellectual center until the Mongols destroyed it in 1258.
So today we're covering how the Abbasids came to power, how they built Baghdad and the Islamic Golden Age, and how the Caliphate eventually declined and fell to the Mongols.
All right, I'm ready. This sounds fascinating.
Let's start with how the Abbasids overthrew the previous dynasty and established their rule. Okay, so to understand the Abbasids, we need to back up briefly. Islam begins with the Prophet Muhammad in the early 600s. After his death in 632, his successors, the caliphs, lead the Muslim community and expand Islamic territory rapidly.
How fast?
Incredibly fast. Within 100 years, Muslim armies conquered the Arabian Peninsula, the Levant, Persia, Egypt, North Africa, and Spain. It's one of the fastest expansions in history.
What's driving the expansion?
Religious fervor, military skill, and the weakness of existing empires. The Byzantine and Sasanian Persian empires had been fighting each other for decades and were exhausted. Arab Muslim armies fill the power vacuum.
So they're conquering while others are weak.
Yes, and by 661, the Umayyad family establishes the Umayyad Caliphate with their capital in Damascus, Syria. They rule the Islamic world for about 90 years.
What's the Umayyad Caliphate like?
They're focused on conquest and maintaining an Arab military aristocracy. Non-Arab Muslims, Persians, Berbers, others are treated as second-class citizens, even though Islamic teaching says all Muslims are equal.
So there's discrimination?
Yes, and resentment builds. Many non-Arab Muslims feel the Umayyads aren't living up to Islamic principles. And there's also a religious dispute. Some Muslims believe the caliphate should have gone to Ali, Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law, and his descendants, not to the Umayyads.
So there's political and religious opposition?
Significant opposition. And in the 740s, a revolutionary movement begins in Persia, led by the Abbasid family, who are descendants of Muhammad's uncle Abbas.
So they're from Muhammad's family too?
Yes, and they promise reform, equality for all Muslims regardless of ethnicity, return to true Islamic principles, and better governance. This message resonates especially with Persians and other non-Arabs.
So they're building a coalition?
A broad coalition united against the Umayyads, and in 750, Abbasid forces defeat the Umayyads at the Battle of the Zab River. The Umayyad dynasty is overthrown, and most of the Umayyad family is killed.
They wipe out the whole family?
Almost. One Umayyad prince, Abd al-Rahman, escapes to Spain and establishes an independent Umayyad emirate there. But in the east, the Abbasids take control.
So the Abbasids are now the rulers?
Yes. The first Abbasid Caliph is Abu al-Abbas, nicknamed al-Safa, the Bloodshedder, because of how violently he dealt with opponents.
Not a subtle nickname.
Not at all. But after consolidating power, the Abbasids make a crucial decision. They move the capital from Damascus to a new city.
Where?
In 762, Caliph al-Mansur founds Baghdad in central Iraq on the Tigris River. And this location is strategic and symbolic.
Why strategic?
Baghdad is at the crossroads of major trade routes connecting the Mediterranean, Persia, India, and Central Asia. It's also in the heart of Mesopotamia, one of the most fertile and historically significant regions in the world.
And why symbolic?
It shows a shift from Arab dominance to a more cosmopolitan, multi-ethnic empire. Baghdad is close to the old Persian heartland, signaling that Persians and other non-Arabs have a place in this new Islamic state.
So they're being more inclusive?
More inclusive than the Umayyads, yes. And al-Mansur designs Baghdad as a round city, a perfect circle with the caliph's palace at the center, symbolizing that the caliph is the center of the Islamic world.
A circular city? That's unusual.
Very unusual and impressive. Baghdad has 3 concentric walls, markets, mosques, and administrative buildings, and it grows rapidly.
How fast?
Within a generation, Baghdad has hundreds of thousands of people. By 800, it's the largest city in the world outside China.
So they're building a world-class capital?
They're building the capital. And under the next few caliphs, especially Harun al-Rashid, 786 to 809, and his son al-Ma'mun, 813 to 833, Baghdad becomes the intellectual center of the world.
All right, quick break. If you're loving this exploration of the Islamic Golden Age, and honestly, learning about Baghdad's contributions is blowing my mind, hit that follow button. Subscribe to Blueprints of Power wherever you're listening. We're covering civilizations from every culture, every continent, telling the full story of human achievement. And there are so many more incredible stories coming. Share this with anyone interested in science history, world history, or understanding how different civilizations have contributed to modern knowledge. The Abbasid story is essential. And please leave us a review. It helps new listeners discover the show, and we genuinely read every single one. Tell us what you're learning, what surprises you, what you want to hear more about. All right, back to Baghdad. Because we're about to get into the House of Wisdom and the incredible scientific achievements of the Islamic Golden Age. Let's go.
Okay, so Baghdad is now the capital and growing rapidly. What makes the Abbasid period so special intellectually?
Let me break down the Abbasid recipe for creating a golden age. Ingredient number 1, the translation movement. The Abbasids sponsor a massive effort to translate texts from Greek, Persian, Sanskrit, and other languages into Arabic.
Why translation?
Because knowledge is scattered across different civilizations using different languages. Greek philosophy and science, Persian literature and statecraft, Indian mathematics and astronomy. The Abbasids want to gather all of it.
So they're collecting knowledge?
Collecting, translating, and synthesizing. They translate Aristotle, Plato, Euclid, Galen, Ptolemy, and many others. These texts had been lost or forgotten in Europe but are preserved and studied in Baghdad.
So they're saving ancient knowledge.
Saving and building on it. And ingredient 2, the House of Wisdom, Bait al-Hikmah. Founded around 830 by Caliph al-Mamun, it's a library, translation bureau, and research institute all in one.
What happens there?
Scholars from across the Islamic world and beyond, Muslims, Christians, Jews, Zoroastrians, work together translating texts, conducting research, and debating ideas. It's like a medieval research university.
So it's diverse and collaborative?
Very much so. The Abbasids value knowledge regardless of who produces it. If you're smart and skilled, they want you in Baghdad.
What kind of research?
Everything. Ingredient 3, mathematics. Islamic mathematicians make revolutionary advances. Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi writes books on algebra and algorithms. Both terms come from his name and his work.
Wait, algorithm comes from his name?
From al-Khwarizmi, yes. And he introduces Hindu-Arabic numerals, the number system we use today, including the concept of zero, to the Islamic world and eventually to Europe.
So we use numbers from the Islamic Golden Age?
The numerals came from India originally, but Islamic mathematicians adopted, refined, and spread them. Without this transmission, Europe would still be using Roman numerals, which are terrible for calculation.
So no one's doing advanced math with Roman numerals?
It's incredibly difficult. Try multiplying 24 by 17. With Hindu-Arabic numerals, 24 times 17 is straightforward.
That's a huge contribution.
Enormous. And ingredient 4, astronomy. Islamic astronomers build observatories, create accurate astronomical tables, and correct Greek errors.
What kind of errors?
Ptolemy, the ancient Greek astronomer, made some mistakes in his calculations. Islamic astronomers like al-Battani measure the solar year more accurately, calculate the precession of the equinoxes, and improve star catalogs.
So they're doing observational science?
Precise observational science. They invent new instruments like the astrolabe, a device for measuring the positions of stars and planets. Sailors and navigators use astrolabes for centuries.
So they're creating practical tools?
Very practical. And ingredient 5, medicine. Islamic physicians revolutionize medicine. Ibn Sina, known in Latin as Avicenna, writes The Canon of Medicine around 1025, a comprehensive medical encyclopedia.
What's in it?
Everything known about medicine at the time, anatomy, diseases, treatments, pharmacology. It becomes the standard medical textbook in both the Islamic world and Europe for over 500 years.
500 years, one book?
One incredibly comprehensive book. And Al-Razi, known as Rhazes, distinguishes between smallpox and measles for the first time, describes allergies, and pioneers clinical observation and experimentation.
So they're doing evidence-based medicine?
They're developing it. And they build hospitals, Bimaristans, that offer free treatment to everyone, regardless of wealth or religion. These are the first hospitals as we understand them.
Free hospitals?
Free public hospitals. The Abbasids see healthcare as a public good.
That's progressive.
Very progressive for the time. And ingredient 6, chemistry and engineering. The word chemistry comes from Arabic al-kimiyya. Jabir ibn Hayyan, known as Geber, pioneers experimental chemistry, developing techniques like distillation and crystallization.
So modern chemistry starts here.
The experimental foundations, yes. And engineers develop sophisticated water management systems, windmills, and mechanical devices. The Banu Musa brothers write about automated machines and programmable devices.
Programmable devices in the 800s?
Early programmable machines using gears and water pressure. They're centuries ahead of Europe in mechanical engineering.
This is incredible.
And ingredient 7, literature and culture. The Abbasid court is a center of poetry, music, and storytelling. 1001 Nights. The collection, including stories like Aladdin, Ali Baba, and Sinbad, takes shape during this period.
Those stories are from the Abbasid era?
They're compiled and popularized during this time, yes. And Persian literature flourishes. Poets like Ferdowsi writing epic poems, philosophers like Al-Farabi discussing politics and ethics.
So it's not just science, it's arts and humanities too.
The Abbasids value all forms of knowledge and creativity. And ingredient 8, trade and economic prosperity. Baghdad sits at the center of a vast trade network. Silk from China, spices from India, furs from Russia, gold from Africa, everything flows through Baghdad.
So they're getting rich from trade?
Extremely wealthy. The Abbasid dinar, a gold coin, becomes the standard currency across the Islamic world and beyond. And the caliphs use that wealth to fund scholarship, build infrastructure, and support the arts.
So prosperity funds culture?
Exactly. And for about 200 years, from the mid-70s to the mid-90s, Baghdad is the undisputed intellectual and cultural capital of the world.
But things change?
Things change. Before we get into the decline of the Abbasid Caliphate, I want to emphasize how much the Islamic Golden Age contributed to modern civilization. When Europe was struggling through the early Middle Ages, Baghdad was preserving ancient knowledge and making revolutionary advances that would later enable the European Renaissance and scientific revolution. If you're enjoying Blueprints of Power and learning about civilizations that don't get enough attention, please share this episode. Understanding the contributions of Islamic civilization is crucial for a complete understanding of world history. And please leave us a review. It helps the show grow and reach people who want to learn the full story of human achievement. All right, time to talk about how the Abbasid Caliphate declined and how Baghdad fell to the Mongols in 1258. Let's get into it.
Okay, so Baghdad is at its peak in the 800s and 900s. What causes the decline?
The decline is gradual and caused by multiple factors. First, political fragmentation. The Abbasid Caliphate is huge, and over time, distant provinces start acting independently.
Like what?
Starting in the 800s, governors in regions like Egypt, North Africa, and Persia become essentially autonomous. They still nominally recognize the Abbasid Caliph, but they govern independently and keep tax revenue.
So the empire's decentralizing?
Rapidly decentralizing. By the 900s, the Fatimid Caliphate controls Egypt and North Africa. The Umayyads still control Spain, and various dynasties control Persia and Central Asia.
So the Abbasids are losing territory?
They're losing effective control. And second, military weakening. The Abbasids increasingly rely on Turkish slave soldiers, Mamluks, for their military.
Slave soldiers?
Enslaved people purchased or captured from Central Asia and trained as elite warriors. They're effective militarily but politically dangerous.
Why dangerous?
Because they become powerful enough to manipulate or control the caliphs. By the 900s, Turkish military commanders are the real power, and the caliph is often just a figurehead.
So they're puppet rulers?
Often, yes. And third, economic decline. As provinces break away, tax revenue flowing to Baghdad decreases. Trade routes shift and Baghdad's commercial dominance fades.
So they're getting poorer?
Significantly. And without wealth, they can't fund scholarship, infrastructure, or military forces. The Golden Age fades.
What about intellectually?
Scholarship continues in various parts of the Islamic world, in Cairo, Cordoba, Persia. But Baghdad is no longer the center. And in the 1000s and 1100s, religious conservatism grows. And some scholars argue that too much focus on Greek philosophy contradicts Islamic teaching.
So there's a backlash against secular knowledge?
Some backlash, yes, not universal, but the broad, open intellectual culture of the early Abbasid period contracts somewhat.
And then what?
Fourth, the Crusades. Starting in 1096, European crusaders invade the Levant, capturing Jerusalem and establishing crusader states. This creates instability and drains resources.
So the Abbasids are fighting crusaders?
Various Muslim powers are fighting crusaders. The Abbasid Caliph has little direct power by this point, but the wars disrupt the region.
And then comes the final blow?
The Mongols. In the 1200s, the Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan and his successors conquers Central Asia and moves toward the Middle East.
We covered the Mongols. They were unstoppable.
They were devastating. In 1258, Hulagu Khan, Genghis Khan's grandson, leads a Mongol army to Baghdad. The Abbasid Caliph at the time, Al-Mustasim, refuses to surrender.
Big mistake?
Catastrophic mistake. The Mongols besiege Baghdad, and on February 10, 1258, they breach the defenses. What follows is one of the worst destructions in history.
What do they do?
The Mongols sack Baghdad for weeks. They massacre hundreds of thousands of people. Estimates range from 200,000 to over 1 million. They destroy the House of Wisdom, throwing thousands of books into the Tigris River. Legend says the river ran black with ink.
They destroy the library?
They destroy everything. Hospitals, palaces, mosques, all burned or demolished. The caliph is executed and the Abbasid Caliphate ends.
After 500 years.
After 508 years, Baghdad, which had been the greatest city in the world, is reduced to ruins. It takes centuries to recover.
That's heartbreaking.
It's one of the great tragedies of history. Centuries of accumulated knowledge destroyed in weeks.
What's the legacy?
The legacy is enormous. The scientific and philosophical works translated and produced during the Abbasid period were transmitted to Europe through Islamic Spain and Sicily. They enabled the European Renaissance.
So Europe's revival comes partly from Islamic knowledge?
Directly. When Europeans rediscovered Greek philosophy and science in the 11th and 12th centuries, they got it through Arabic translations and commentaries. Scholars like Averroes and Avicenna were essential to European intellectual development.
So the Islamic Golden Age enabled the Renaissance?
It was a crucial link in the chain. Without the preservation and advancement of knowledge in Baghdad, Cairo, and Cordoba, the Renaissance might not have happened, or would have looked very different.
All right, we've covered the rise, the Golden Age, and the tragic fall of the Abbasid Caliphate. Time for lessons. What can we learn from the civilization that valued knowledge above all? Charlie, you're first.
Here's mine. Investing in knowledge creates lasting legacy. The Abbasids spent wealth on translation, research, and education rather than just conquest and military. And even though their political power ended, their intellectual contributions shaped humanity for centuries. The lesson? What you create intellectually and culturally outlasts what you conquer militarily. Knowledge is the most durable form of power.
Ideas outlast armies.
Always.
That's perfect. Mine's about openness and collaboration. The House of Wisdom succeeded because it welcomed scholars from all backgrounds, Muslims, Christians, Jews, from different regions and cultures. The lesson? Innovation happens at intersections. When you bring together diverse perspectives, knowledge, and traditions, you create something greater than any single culture could alone. Exclusion limits creativity. Inclusion amplifies it.
Diversity drives innovation.
Empirically, yes.
Both excellent. Mine's about the fragility of cultural achievement. Baghdad was the intellectual capital of the world, housing irreplaceable knowledge, and it was destroyed in weeks. The lesson? Cultural treasures, libraries, art, knowledge are incredibly valuable, but also incredibly fragile. We have a responsibility to preserve and protect them because once they're destroyed, they're gone forever. What took centuries to build can be demolished in days.
Protect what's irreplaceable.
Exactly.
That's really important, especially today.
The Abbasid Caliphate is incredible. I wish more people knew this story.
It should be taught alongside the Renaissance and Enlightenment because it's part of that story.
It's the foundation of that story. European science built on Islamic science, which built on Greek science. It's cumulative.
Human knowledge is a relay race.
Perfect metaphor.
I love that.
All right, next week we're covering the Carolingian Empire, Charlemagne and the Franks, the first empire to unite Western Europe after Rome fell. We're talking about the foundation of modern France and Germany, the Carolingian Renaissance, and how one man tried to recreate the Roman Empire.
Charlemagne is fascinating, the father of Europe.
I'm excited for that.
Same. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging with us on Blueprints of Power.
I'm Lily.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Jack, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.